All right, guys, what's going on? It's Jack, and welcome back to another video. And today I want to talk about something very important, especially since we're, approaching the 3-month mark or so of XDefiant, and ever since its release. And quite frankly, it is very safe to assume that a lot of players have stopped playing XDefiant for whatever reason, or have basically slowed down. I know for one that I've slowed down. I've continuously taken more and more days off. I've even took advantage of Xbox's big discount game sale that they've got going on at this point. Gotten a lot of really good games on that are very discounted. Some of them newer, some of them older, or whatnot. Hell, I even went to GameStop and purchased a few hard copies of games that I didn't own for the PS4. And it's always good to have that, right? To where you don't require an internet connection. All you need is your disc, your system, and all that kind of stuff, right? So in other words, my time and my mind has been kind of divided between XDefiant and possibly other games in the near future. Even content. I've taken a few days off because I was on a streak of putting up videos every day. And then obviously I started realizing that this needs to stop simply because of the fact that there's nothing of significance to talk about. But today is not that case, in my opinion. And I'm going to tell you why. Because one of the things that I've seen over the course of the last few weeks, especially, or should I say within the last month, give or take, has been that people have stopped playing the game because it's boring, right? For whatever reason, it's gotten boring for people. Some people, it's gotten boring because ranked is not optimized to where it should be. There's lots of cheaters. It needs faction balancing and all that other stuff. And then everybody's different experiences in ranked, as well as some of the things that the game also needs, et cetera, is another reason. But I'm going to add to this. And I think I know why the game has dropped significantly. And as a matter of fact, not only will I give you my take on why it's been dropping significantly, but also I'm going to give you a reason why, to where it's going to be a constant back and forth thing with XDefiant in terms of it dropping significantly, as well as coming back significantly, and just kind of having a back and forth, so to speak. Almost like the Call of Duty yearly cycle, to where like the first 2 to 3 months, it's solid. And then after that, everything dies down. And then once the new one comes out, there's, the player base grows and then it disappears again, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's going to be the same thing with XDefiant, but I think it's going to be more of a seasonal or mid-seasonal update sort of thing, to where it kind of goes up and down, so to speak. So, and this is the reason that I believe why. So I'm going to give you the perfect example, so that way you guys can see what I see, right? If they were to remaster Call of Duty Black Ops 2 now, right? Let's say they were to remaster Black Ops 2 with all the bells and whistles like we remember it. They'd modernize it so that we would have the additional frame rates and options and stuff like that in the options menu and everything like that. Cross-play, cross-platform play, console only, input-based matchmaking, the works, you name it, right? No engagement optimized matchmaking, skill-based matchmaking, blah, blah, blah. Let's say it had XDefiant's matchmaking, but it was in the form of a remastered version of Call of Duty Black Ops 2 that was modernized, right? Now, this is something that is very dreamy for so many players right now. I mean, you think of that and you're like, oh man, that would be the best thing ever. I would never play anything else again. But let's go back to reality for a second. I don't think that that's going to be the case. And I'll tell you why. The reason why is because we've done that before. Despite the fact that, we'd be getting additional frame rates and all that kind of stuff. Is all that new content, really? Is it new content? Is it anything fresh or new? Haven't we played on all those maps before? Haven't we gotten used to all those streaks before, despite the fact that they were good and epic? Aren't we used to this the pick 10 system from Call of Duty Black Ops 2? Aren't we used to the way the spawn system works, the way the weapons are, and the way the weapons work, et cetera, et cetera? Aren't we used to that? Let me ask you this. If Call of Duty Black Ops 2 were to still be functional right now and hacker-free, right? Because we all know that that game is hacked to shit, right? Would you be playing it as often as you were during its life cycle, or maybe a few years after that? Because I know that there's a few players that played. Would you still be playing it as often as you did? Of course not. Chances are you wouldn't. There's a reason as to why those games, even the ones that still work, like let's say Call of Duty World War II is still very functional. You can go and find games very, very easily, especially in Team Deathmatch or whatnot. And if you play at peak times, you can find other lobbies fairly easily as well, regardless of whether you play on Xbox or PlayStation or whatnot. Okay, but here's the thing. There's the player count has still significantly dropped in comparison to what it was before, despite the fact that there's tons to do in that game. So what I'm trying to get at here is that even though content is great and having a reason to play is great, and to grind prestige master is great, and to enjoy those new weapons and stuff like that is great, they are only partial solutions, if not maybe a band-aid, as opposed to a cast that this broken leg really needs, so to speak. Because we've been there before. See, one of the things that people have been saying about XDefiant is that it doesn't really do anything new, which is very true. But at the same time, there's also other people that say, well, it doesn't need to do anything new because it's the only game of its kind, because it doesn't have skill-based matchmaking, engagement optimized matchmaking, and it focuses on the classic arcade shooter, which is also true. However, one thing that you cannot deny the fact that it is something that was more relevant back in the day than it is now. Okay? And this is coming from a person that loves XDefiant, despite its problems. You know, content creation and everything else aside, I like the game. I love the game, and I can't wait to see what happens with the game in the future. But I also can't deny that I don't play it as much as I did at first. And it really just hit me like a ton of bricks while doing the first take of this commentary, to which I'm going to scrap, and I'm probably going to post this one instead. And that is that I've done this before. I know that these are new maps. I know that these are new weapons. I know that the game feels slightly different, et cetera, but I've done this before. I've played this classic style arcade shooter before. I've played it with specialist abilities or whatever you want to call it. I've played on these familiar types of 3-lane maps, and in terms of the way everything works in this game. I've played this type of arcade shooter before from so many years. It just happened to be called Call of Duty, and it was a slight different variant of this game, right? I mean, XDefiant, even before it came out, was said to be a variant of Call of Duty, and that is true. It is a variant of Call of Duty, even though it's not titled Call of Duty. It is a Call of Duty variant at the end of the day, right? Let's not beat around the bush. It's a hybrid shooter variant of a Call of Duty with a little bit of Overwatch thrown in, with a little bit of this. So, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it's a game that we've all been familiar with, and we've been there before. So, and as much as we love it, it's not something that a lot of us, and again, I can't speak for everybody, but it's not something that a lot of us are going to stick with playing full on as if it just came out for months and months and months and months and months and months on end. The majority of us are not going to be able to do that. We'd have to take a break, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, granted, in gaming, this is usually natural that happens, but if you think about it, a lot of people will say that the game is boring, not because the game is bad, but it's because we've played it before in a different, it was just called something different, but we've played this before. So even if they were to remaster Black Ops 2, even if they were to remaster, let's say they were to remaster, I don't know, let me name another franchise for a second, Halo 3, right? Even if they were to remaster that, et cetera, right? I mean, sure, people will go crazy over it for the first few months, but after a while, it's going to become very repetitive to the point to where people are going to be bored because they've done that before, despite the graphics and all that kind of stuff. And this is where it just goes to show you that graphics are not enough. At first, it's going to be like the best thing since sliced bread, but within a month or two, it's going to be very redundant, very boring. You've done it before. No matter what other game they remaster or whatnot. I mean, even look at even the single player games, right? Single player games are amazing at this. I still hope that we get remasters and all that good stuff. But one thing I will tell you is that the beauty of single player games is once you're done beating the game and reliving all those great memories with all the bells and whistles of modern technology and everything like that, you may go back and play it once a year or twice a year. But it's not something that you're going to do nearly as regularly as you would as if it was something new, right? And again, I know this applies to single player games, but if there was a multiplayer type of game that's already been released and you've already had that experience before, you're not likely to stick around for long. Now, again, there are those outliers. There are those few people that will absolutely stick with the game no matter what because they love it that much. They love making content on it or whatever their deal is. I respect it. I get it. I tip my hat to those people. But I'm just saying that's not the majority of people. And I think this is the reason why, or a big, significant reason why, as to why a lot of people just find this game very boring. And that is my explanation. Even if they were to remake, your favorite Call of Duty with all the bells and whistles of everything today, with no skill-based matchmaking, engagement optimized matchmaking, all that kind of stuff, it would not, after a little while, whether it's a month or 2 months or a temporary period of time, it's not going to have the same impact or longevity that it used to back in the day. It's just not. And this is why SM2 or SM squared was very unique, because it was giving that, but it was giving all that at such a big dose, with so many maps, so many weapons, so much to grind for and all that kind of stuff, that players would actually stick around for a longer period of time before they got bored, right? So, and obviously XDefiant, it currently doesn't have anywhere near the amount of content that SM2 or SM squared was going to have. Nowhere near it in terms of map count, weapons, prestige, all that kind of stuff. Nowhere near it. At least, like I said, not yet. So that's the thing. It's like, but even with SM2, the thing is that, the content would keep people's attention for longer, and the variety of game modes, content, et cetera, et cetera. However, despite all that, again, even that is running on a short period of time, because, again, like I said, we've all done that before. So again, what I think is going to happen with XDefiant is that people will come and go, even the majority of the most devout players. Now, are there going to be a few outliners that are always going to stay? Absolutely. But it's not going to be anywhere near to where we got it launched, to where there were at least 700,000 concurrent players playing. Now, I hope I'm wrong when it comes to that, but I'm just saying, I'm living in reality. As much as I would love to live in fantasy land, that's just a reality of things the way they are. So anyway, with that being said, I think I've talked about this long enough, and I want to know down in the comment section what you guys think. I want to know your opinion, or if there's any reason that you stop playing, or why you keep playing, or whatever it is. I want to know it all down in the comment section. And don't forget, this kind of the comments and these kind of videos are kind of a beacon of feedback for the developers. And all we can hope is that a developer sees this and therefore gets additional feedback from the comment section, as well as what they've heard in this commentary. So with that being said, I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time to watch and or listen. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.